and as they relate to Sage Intacct. Sorry, if I could just have the room. There we go. Thank you. So as I mentioned earlier today, we did a quick presentation on the concept of dimensions, and dimensions are actually quite intertwined with creating dashboards and reports within a system. So really what I want to talk about is what does a system allow you to do from a dashboard and reports capability. So we call it the, get your straight A. So anything around getting greater accuracy from all your reports, having the ability to gain insights from your audience, and provide secure accessibility also from a report. So you can restrict who has access to reports and what you want them to do from that standpoint. Really what the system will do from its design is to get you to stop moving data from your financial system into Excel and manipulating or massaging data within Excel and then sharing that. Because obviously the more human interaction that we have with reports, not saying that there's going to be errors, but there's more percentage of room for errors when we've got human intervention that's going on, right? So that's really what we're trying to get you out of and get you within the system. The dashboards and the reports that you can create, so the system comes out of the box with 150 reports that are just kind of like your pre-canned, call it your balance sheet reports, your P&L reports, these type of reports. You can then take these reports and start massaging them or manipulating them and making them your own. Once you go ahead and create these reports, you can put them on the dashboards. And these dashboards, you have complete authority in terms of who can see the information and as to what level. So we have user permissioning, for example, in the system, what's called an employee user, which is a light user, and they can go into the system and just view a specific dashboard that you've created for them and get access to that data in real time. If you don't want them to be in the system and accessing the data in real time, you also have the ability to schedule reports out. And again, these reports can be hard copy PDFs. So they go into somebody's inbox. They could be a digital version that they can go ahead and consult with. And you can also, are you doing this for one report? Or are you doing this for multiple reports? If you are doing multiple reports at month end, you have the ability to create what's called a group and then put a series of reports in this group and then schedule that group out. So again, just bringing you efficiencies from that standpoint. Really what I wanted to do today is show you how simple it is to create a dashboard within Sage Intacct. The flexibility around the system that it allows you to do that, and then also really creating a simple report that you can go ahead and have access to. Creating a dashboard, let's just say for today's purpose we wanted to create a new dashboard and add a series of reports that you've already created within your system. So you would go under your menu, you would have an area called dashboards over here. You would simply go ahead and click on the plus icon that allows you to go ahead and create a dashboard. So I'd simply go in here, say, yeah, you know what, I want to call this my Bass Connect dashboard. And really what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive this dashboard and I'm going to say, what filters do I want to show? So again, coming back to that concept of dimensions, which is going to allow me to index the data. So obviously I want a date range. I may want locations. I may want departments, and I may want customers. But also who's going to have access to this dashboard. So again, you can create user groups, or you can define it at the individual level, and you'll say, you know what, I am looking for a named user or a series of named users, and I'm going to go ahead and add that into my system. So with that, I've started already there creating my basic dashboard. You can see here, it's already showed up in my menu. If I came over to it, it's basically going to be essentially a blank canvas. So come over here, refresh my screen. And go under dashboards, Bass Connect. And really what I have is my date range is at the very top. So now I want to go ahead and start populating data into my dashboard. All that I really need to do is click on the little icon, on the plus field over here, and it's going to drive me a menu of a number of different things. So is it a chart that I'm looking to bring in? If it is a chart and I've already pre-populated, so have I created financial report charts, memorized charts, whatever the case may be, I'm just going to go ahead and grab a chart that I've created. So operating expenses in detail as an example, save that, and the information will populate directly into my dashboard. Add a little bit of a date range, so we have some data that shows up. And adds maybe some locations. So there's already one component that I've already started adding in to my dashboard. Following that, I want to add in additional components. So from here, I may be looking at bringing performance cards. So performance cards are essentially they're a grouping of accounts that you put together. Think of it like a KPI. This could be a financial metric. This could be a non-financial metric. It could be a combination of both put together. But basically what it is, it's a roll-up of these groups. So again, looking through the groups, keeping things super simple, we're going to say we're going to bring in accounts payable. We'll just call this AP. And I get to choose, again, how I want to present this data. Do I want to look at it for the current month? Do I want to look at it for the current year? So on and so forth. We don't put any restrictions in terms of how far your data goes back. So again, my demo sets here go back as far as 2015. If I wanted to have side-by-side comparisons of KPIs, I could go ahead and create 2 of them and allow that to show on my screen. Do I want the number to show, with a currency? Do I want it to show as a percentage? Those are entirely up to me. Do I want to roll up the number? Do I not want to roll up the number? What am I comparing it to? So do I want to compare it to a previous period? Do I want to compare it to 5 periods ago? Do I want to compare this to a budget? Do I not want any comparison? If I am doing comparisons, do I want to add in any type of visual indicator? So again, no scripting really is what's going to be required of you. You're just going to go ahead and make a couple of series of clicks, and then I'm just going to go ahead and click on save, and then the information here is going to automatically add into my system. So I must select location. So let me just go quickly under there and put in a specific location, and we'll say that for this location, we'll just take all of our operating locations. So there we have it. We're starting having a second element in here. We're just going to add in all of our global locations, hit apply, and we start having a value. So I could add one, I could add multiple of these key performance indicators. Keeping in mind that when you bring in this type of data, you also have drill down capability. So I have a value for AP for this year with a comparison. If I wanted to get curious, it allows me to click on it. I can get down to, again, how is this account grouping created? If I wanted to get more curious, again, I could keep on drilling down into the value. It'll bring me to a GL level report where I get the data transaction. I can see what journals this was written to, whether it was to the AP journal, what currency this was booked into. And again, if I wanted to continue on to my curiosity journey, I could get right down to the bill level. And that's going to allow me to do that again just from the dashboard as I add that kind of demo set into there. So I've added now 2 basic components. I've added a performance card. I've added a chart. If I wanted to carry on, go through my selection menu, you can see here my next option are going to be records. So do I want to bring in anything around approving my bills? Am I in charge of approving the AP? Am I in charge of approving GL level transactions? These are some of the day-to-day transactions that you may be doing or approving expenses. And you simply go ahead and select that, and then you could say, do I want it to auto collapse, or do I want it to show the height? How many of these rows do I want to show? But also, what components do I want to add in there? So we talked earlier about AI and machine learning. So we've tied that into the GL level. What that really means is when you enter transactions, it learns your histories, and if you deviate from that history, it'll send you a notification, and it'll tell you, is this correct or is this incorrect, and it allows you to fix a transaction ahead of time. So let's just say that I wanted to add a couple of lists, and I'll just select a couple of my toggles here, click on save, and now every time that I come into work, I'm going to see what journal entries are on my book here with the outlier. If the outlier was picked up, there'd be some kind of notification, and I would go ahead and query that and have the ability to go ahead and drill into that value. Maybe I don't want to have these going one down after the other, so I want to cascade my reports. I can just simply drag and drop and start putting them side by side as well. So it's a little bit cleaner for me to visit the information. So that's on the ability to add really anything around the records. You may have information around, specific reporting that you're looking to do. Is it a financial report now that you've added into the system? So again, no different than what we did earlier on. You would simply go through your reports here, and you could add a number of different reports, put them in, and then they would just show up directly onto your dashboard. I could add information. So you can see here, it's very easy. In less than 5-10 minutes, I start designing a dashboard. Really, the outcomes of these dashboards, you can create different looks and feels for what individuals want to do, right? So a CFO may have something which is a lot more graphical in nature. They may be looking at company performance, they may be looking at information around their revenues and their EBITDA and so on and so forth, and you could create this. Or on the flip hand, you have perhaps a controller that's looking for more of the day-to-day expenses. So again, this is the outcomes that you could kind of create from a dashboard perspective. All these are out-of-the-box reports, again, that are available to you. If I wanted to, again, keep track of day-to-day activities or do what's called a month-end close, you could add any types of reports around working assignments. What are the different things that I want to do as part of my month-end close? Who's responsible for it? And then that person could be assigned to that specific task, and then you could keep track of that specific task within the system as well and see what's being done and what hasn't been performed from that perspective. So very easy to manipulate things. The other thing that I wanted to call out was creating a net new report or modifying a report. As I mentioned earlier here, I had a P&L report that I've designed. So if you wanted to build something very similar in terms of looks and feels, you could do that within the system. You would go under your report writer, and simply from a report writer, you'd say, you know what, I want to go and look at the financial reports. So again, all the ones that are out of the box here, but let's just say that we wanted to create a new report for this particular conference. So you'll give the report a name, again, coming to the concept of Bass Connect, and then I'm going to build this report out. So as I build this report out, it uses, again, the area of those account groups as I mentioned earlier on. So if you've already gone through the efforts of creating those account groups, you can go ahead and rinse and repeat. So do I want to go ahead and build a profit and loss report? I know what my grouping is called. I'll go ahead and select it. It's called my net income. Drop it in. Maybe I also want in this report different sets of information. I may want my accounts receivable. So I'll also add those grouping reports. I get to choose how I want to present the data. So I can, again, organize it in different sequences. Do I want the AR above the net income? Once I've added really what's important to me, I'm just, again, going to put a date around the information. And with that, go into my live report. So here we go. We've got our AR that's built out. We've got a specific period. And then we've got all those different revenue accounts. Again, same capability of drilling through onto the report. This maybe is just the beginning of my report. So if I wanted to go further in terms of building out my report, let me just go back into the report writer. I could say within my report over here, make sure that I've got the right one. Apologize. Where is it? Let me go back into my report value. Profit and loss. There we go. I could go in here and under my columns, I could say, let's go ahead and add columns. So we had that fundamental column that we created earlier on. From here, if I wanted to say it's not financial details, maybe it's non-financial details. So I had to think of professional services where you have projects and you have your labor hours that are coming in. What is my labor hours that I've billed, which is not the ones that I've utilized. You could add these columns onto report and quickly build it out from that perspective. In this case here, we have financial details. So maybe I wanted to do a year-over-year comparison. I'd simply say, go ahead and add in a column to the right-hand side of this. In my initial column, I had it for current year. That's not what I want. I want to go ahead and look at it from this perspective. And then in the column to the right-hand side, I'm going to say I wanted to do it the prior year. So I'll go ahead and set those side by side. You could include offsets if you need to. So if I wanted to go ahead and say, go ahead and show me the value for a specific period, or do I want to go ahead and create some conditional formatting? I'm really concerned that if there's any value which is less than or equal to the value of 0, I want you to highlight this cell and call it out in red so that I have that capability. So again, just by doing a couple of quick clicks here, I now have 2 columns year over year. If there were any values that were in red in my initial column, they would be called out. Just as easily, if you wanted to add in a budgetary column, you would have the same capability. So I would go to the right-hand side. So again, I want to go ahead and add a third column to here. From this column, I'm going to say this time, I'm looking at budget information, right? So one column is budget. The following column could be a variance, could be a forecasting, whatever the case may be. I can go ahead and add that column. I could choose my budget that I'm looking if I've created multiple budgets within the system. And again, I can select that period. So do I want to look at it for the current year, the prior year, so on and so forth. So now that I've added my columns in, I want to blow it out now. I want to get really more granular. I've created my budget, but I want to look at my budget by different departments because that's the concept of a dimension that I had. So I can go ahead and set that up. And with that, again, just allowing the system to refresh, I've got all my budgets that are created by different departments, and I can go ahead and see it year over year. Very easily done, right? The other thing that I can do, sorry, I keep on clicking on the wrong tab. My apologies. Coming back over here, if I wanted to blow out the previous rows, just as I mentioned, the system will allow me to come in here at any account level. Let's just say my revenues here. I wanted to say, I want to look at revenues, and I want you to break this down by a specific dimension as well. I can go ahead and say, I want to look at it based off of, AR, revenues. Let's look at revenues based off customers. Select that. Just that particular area of the report. It'll go ahead and re-index the data, and now it's giving me all my revenues, and it's pulling out the values, which ones are not performing, because it's highlighted in that particular cell. So this is where you can start getting really creative and building some very simple reporting with little to no scripting in the system. Once I start building these type of reports, I also have simple capabilities where I could go ahead and do computations, right? So if I wanted to, actually without even hitting on it, you'll see here in the example, my apologies, I escaped out of my report. If I wanted to create a computation, I could do a number of different rules within the system whereby I would go in here and simply say, is it based off an account group? Is it based off a constant? What do I want you to do? Multiply, divide, so on and so forth. You could also add a column within your report and call it a notation column, and you could add digital notations directly within your report as well. So again, coming back to that concept at the very top here, I would just simply go ahead and add a column. There's specific values that I want to digitize. It's not physical information, but it's notation, so it's going to be dedicated to that. I can then come into the notations area. I could add specific notations, say exactly where I want these notations to land, and then the system will then create that on the report, right? Mentioned earlier on, so what do you do with this report? You've gone through the efforts of creating this report, and you've put it on a dashboard. The 80-20 rule, who has access to this report or who shouldn't have access to? So you can limit that usability from that standpoint. And just again, to recap what I mentioned earlier on, so what are you doing next? Do you want to put this on a public dashboard, private dashboard? Is there individuals, again, that are not using the system that should be getting this report? So you can go ahead and schedule it, and you can bundle it in a group. And again, when you go ahead and preview these, you can get them in PDF version. You can export them. You can put them in a digital version. Or if you really want to get the information out to Excel, you can click on the Excel capability, and it'll bring out all the values directly on there. So I know that's a whirlwind in half an hour in terms of how do you create a simple dashboard and how do you create some reports. But I'll take a quick pause here and see if there's any questions in what you saw.
For the dashboard that you showed before, the graph, can you do a year-over-year comparison?
You absolutely
Or is it
can.
from period?
Yeah. No, you can do year-over-year comparisons.
Okay. And can that dashboard be exported directly into some type of a presentation mode or no?
So we have an advanced, the report writer that I showed you today is the core report writer. We also have a tool within Sage Intacct which is called Interactive Visual Explorer, which allows you to take these reports into a graphical nature. You can then move them directly from this tool into a PowerPoint presentation.
Is that in the Sage Intacct bundle itself, or is that something we have to activate?
It's a Sage Intacct module that you have to subscribe to specifically, called Interactive Visual Explorer.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Question.
Yes.
When you make a customized report
Yes.
and you save it, that's available for other users to access to it and bring it up.
Provided you've granted access, so yes.
And then also when you create a notation, that notation might be saved.
Correct, yeah.
But when you change the criteria of the report, like the months or whatever, that notation is still going to be there or going to go away?
You're going to have to update the notation. Yes, yeah, absolutely. So. Hi, yes.
Oh.
Can it work with different entities with multiple currencies?
Absolutely. Yeah, so each entity, when you create your dashboard and you put it on the dashboard of that entity, will be reflective of that. So I know I'm getting the hand signal that I'm out of time, but just to answer your question real quick, the dashboard that you saw earlier on here at the top level, that's on my base currency. If I chose and went into a dashboard which was in the UK, all of my details on my dashboard are going to be reflective in British pounds and in that base currency as well. So.